One night, Ana de Armas walked away from Tom Cruise and never looked back. No goodbye, no explanation, no second chance. By morning, Hollywood knew something had shattered behind closed doors. What really happened in those private hours that made one of the fastest rising stars abandon the most powerful superstar on Earth? The truth is far more disturbing than you think. Nobody saw this coming. One moment, Hollywood was buzzing with rumors of a powerful new star couple. Cameras flashed. Headlines spread like wildfire. Social media couldn't stop talking. And then, suddenly, everything went silent. No statements, no explanations, just distance. And one question echoed across the internet. Why did Ana de Armas suddenly pull away from Tom Cruise? To fans around the world, this pairing felt unreal, almost cinematic. Tom Cruise, the unstoppable global legend, a man whose name alone guarantees billion-dollar box offices. An action hero who has ruled Hollywood for decades with fearless stunts, unmatched discipline, and a legacy that few in history can rival. And on the other side, Ana de Armas, the fresh, magnetic star who seemed to rise overnight, but earned every inch of her success through raw talent, quiet strength, and emotionally powerful performances. When their names became linked, the internet exploded. Paparazzi chased every movement, every dinner, every appearance, every private meeting turned into a headline. Fans analyzed body language, shared blurry photos, and created endless theories. Some predicted a secret romance. Others talked about career power moves. Some even whispered about a future marriage that could unite to Hollywood generations into one unstoppable force. For a brief moment, it looked like the beginning of something legendary. But then, it all stopped. No breakup announcement. No public confirmation. No dramatic interview. No scandal to explain the silence. Just disappearance. One day they were being discussed everywhere. The next day, it was as if the connection had been erased. No sightings, no shared spaces, no quiet confirmations from sources close to the couple. The media waited, fans waited, but nothing ever came. And strangely, that silence made the mystery even louder. Because in Hollywood, silence is never empty. It's loaded. Behind the red carpets and flashing cameras, something shifted. Somewhere between the private dinners and global attention, something changed. And what followed became one of the most whispered about splits in modern Hollywood. Not because of what was said, but because of what was never said. No public fight. No cheating scandal. No dramatic fallout. Just two stars quietly drifting into separate worlds. Some believed it was pressure. Some believed it was control. Some believed it was ambition colliding with freedom. Others believed the truth was buried far deeper than anyone could imagine, because walking away from Tom Cruise doesn't just mean walking away from a person. It means walking away from power. Protection. Global influence and a level of fame that few ever touch. Yet, Ana did exactly that. And she did it without drama. Without noise, without explanation. Which leads us back to the question the world still can't stop asking. What really happened behind closed doors that made one of the fastest rising stars in Hollywood Quietly step away from the most powerful man in the film industry? Was it love that faded? Was it pressure that became too heavy? Or was it a realization that changed everything forever? Because sometimes the most shocking stories aren't written in scandals. They're written in silence. Their story reportedly began the way many Hollywood stories do, quietly, behind studio doors, far from the public eye. Both actors were connected through major film projects, powerful producers, and mutual industry circles where only the top names are invited. At first, it looked like nothing more than a professional collaboration. Two stars operating in the same creative universe. Two reputations built on talent, discipline, and global appeal. Long hours on set. Endless script readings. Intense preparation. Exhausting schedules. Day after day, they worked under pressure, rehearsing complex scenes, discussing character depth, and pushing each other creatively. In Hollywood, this kind of closeness doesn't just build movies. Sometimes it builds something deeper. And slowly, on-set chemistry turned into off-set closeness. Crew members reportedly began noticing subtle changes. Conversations that lasted longer than necessary. Shared laughter between takes. The kind of effortless comfort that cannot be acted. Then came the quiet public sightings, private dinners at exclusive locations, discreet entrances and exits, carefully timed travel schedules that seemed to align a little too perfectly. They appeared unusually comfortable round each other. But publicly, there was nothing. No confirmation. No interviews. No shared posts. No official acknowledgement of any kind. And yet, the mystery only made the connection feel stronger. Fans thrive on unanswered questions, and this became one of the biggest. Every photo was analyzed, every movement tracked, every absence noticed. The silence between them became its own kind of language. Tom Cruise, the man who built his career on discipline, perfection, and complete control over his public image, seemed more relaxed. For decades, he had lived inside a carefully protected bubble, intense focus, relentless training, and absolute dedication to his craft. He doesn't just act in films. He becomes the engine that drives them. To many observers, it looked like he had found someone who matched that fire. Someone who understood the cost of greatness. And then there was Ana de Armas, rising faster than anyone expected. An actress who didn't just rely on beauty, but on emotional depth, vulnerability, and fearless choices. Each role she picked felt like a step closer to something bigger: artistic freedom, global recognition, and personal independence. She wasn't chasing fame. Fame was chasing her. While Tom's career was built on legacy and power, Anna was still discovering her limits and breaking through them one by one. She wanted bold roles, complex stories, a future she could shape on her own terms. For a brief moment, it looked like two worlds had collided beautifully, one built on control and legacy, the other built on growth and limitless possibility. To fans, it felt poetic. A seasoned legend meeting a rising star, experience blending with ambition, stability meeting fire. But behind the scenes, their lifestyles were far more different than anyone realized. Tom's world ran on precision, strict schedules, intense security, constant scrutiny, and a machine that never rests. Every decision measured, every appearance planned, every connection monitored. Anna's world was just opening up. New opportunities, new freedom, and the first taste of what it meant to truly own her voice in Hollywood. She was building an identity, not protecting a legacy. And sometimes, no matter how strong the connection appears, two different worlds don't collide peacefully. They collide with pressure. Here's where things get complicated. Tom Cruise doesn't just live in Hollywood. In many ways, he is Hollywood. Every move he makes is watched, controlled, analyzed, and supervised. His life runs on strict schedules, layered security, carefully planned appearances, and global expectations that never sleep. For over 3 decades, he has lived inside a powerful system where privacy barely exists. Fame didn't just find him, it built a cage around him. Every smile becomes news. Every step is tracked. Every relationship becomes a headline before it becomes a memory. That is the world Tom Cruise has mastered. But Ana de Armas was entering a very different phase of life. She was stepping into her peak, not as someone protecting a legacy, but as someone creating one. For the first time in her life, global fame was truly hers. She was discovering who she wanted to be, what kind of roles defined her, and what kind of life she wanted to build. She wasn't bound by decades of expectations. She was driven by curiosity, independence, and the hunger to grow. And that difference mattered more than anyone realized. Sources close to the situation quietly suggested that Ana began to feel overwhelmed. The attention was no longer just on her talent or career. It had shifted sharply toward her personal world. Every outing became a headline. Every smile, every silence, every movement was analyzed and reinterpreted. She stopped being seen as just Anna. She became attached to a shadow that wasn't hers. Her identity, the one she was still trying to define, started getting wrapped around someone else's legend. Interviews subtly shifted focus. Questions changed tone. Curiosity turned into intrusion. And with that came pressure no young rising star is ever prepared for. That's when the emotional shift began. Not with a fight, not with betrayal, but with exhaustion. While Tom remained focused on legacy, discipline, and pushing physical limits through dangerous stunts and billion-dollar productions, Ana reportedly began craving something entirely different. She wanted freedom. She wanted peace. She wanted control over her own story. She didn't want her name to only exist next to another. She didn't want every future success to be measured through someone else's scale. She wanted to fail on her own terms, rise on her own strength, and choose her own pace. But the machine surrounding Tom Cruise doesn't slow down for anyone. It doesn't pause for emotion. It doesn't bend for uncertainty. It doesn't shrink for personal growth. And Ana was growing fast. The pressure she felt wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. No screaming matches. No leaked arguments. No visible conflicts. Just an invisible weight building slowly, day after day. Because sometimes quiet pressure is more dangerous than loud drama. Loud drama gives you a moment to react. Quiet pressure changes you silently. It reshapes your choices, your energy. Your direction. Inside, honor was evolving. An evolution inside a rigid system often feels like suffocation. She was choosing peace over noise, identity over attachment. Future over fantasy. And once that realization takes hold, there is no dramatic goodbye. There is only distance. Then it happened, suddenly, but also slowly. At first, nothing was officially wrong. No statements, no breaking news, no dramatic turning point that the world could point to. But something in the air had changed. The familiar sightings stopped. The quiet dinners disappeared. The late-night appearances that once fueled rumors were suddenly gone. They were no longer seen together. No shared red carpets. No private trips. No carefully timed exits from the same locations. No quiet moments caught by paparazzi. The energy completely changed. And strangely, the fans noticed before the media did. Online communities began asking questions. Photos were compared. Schedules were studied. Absences became louder than presence. The connection that once felt alive now felt missing. And when fans grow quiet, the media follows. But still, silence. No confirmation. No denial. No explanation. What made this split so shocking wasn't an argument, a scandal, or a betrayal. It was how clean and quiet it was. No accusations, no leaked fights, no bitter interviews, no dramatic headlines filled with blame. Just two people slowly stepping out of each other's worlds, without turning back. That kind of ending is rare in Hollywood. For honor, the change became clearly visible with time. She grew more selective with interviews. Her answers became quieter, more guarded. She stopped sharing fragments of her private life even in casual ways. Where once curiosity ruled her public image, now boundaries defined it. Her roles began to shift too. She leaned toward emotionally deep characters, stories with complexity, pain, strength, vulnerability, projects that demanded depth instead of just spectacle. It was as if she was choosing stories that gave her back what the spotlight had taken: control. Her performances grew stronger. Her image grew calmer. Her distance grew deliberate. For Tom, life continued at full speed. High risk. Stunts. $1 million sets. $1 billion productions. Global premieres. A public image that never slows down. The machine surrounding him kept moving exactly as it always had. New films, new records, new physical challenges. To the world, nothing seemed to change. The legend marched forward without interruption. But that's what made the contrast so powerful. One was choosing stillness, the other was choosing momentum. It wasn't a dramatic breakup. It was a realization breakup. Sometimes love doesn't fail because of betrayal. Sometimes it fails because two people wake up and see different futures. One future built on control, legacy, and unstoppable motion. The other built on peace, growth, and personal identity. No one was wrong. They were simply no longer aligned. This wasn't about anger. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about scandal. It was about direction. Honor chose a future where her name would not exist in anyone's shadow. Tom continued walking the path he built long before this chapter ever began. And in the end, that quiet separation became louder than any public breakup ever could. Because when two powerful people walk away in silence, the echoes last much longer. So what really caused Honor D. Armas to step away? Not scandal. Not another person. Not betrayal. It appears to be something far simpler and far deeper. She chose herself. Sometimes, the bravest decisions don't come with explosions or dramatic exits. Sometimes, they come quietly, in moments of clarity when the heart finally understands what the mind has been avoiding. Anna realized that being connected to one of the most powerful figures in Hollywood came with invisible chains. Chains that weren't cruel, but were heavy. It meant giving up pieces of privacy. It meant constant attention she never asked for. It meant living a life where every step would always be magnified. It also meant that her own story, her struggles, her victories, her dreams could slowly become a side chapter in someone else's legend. And she didn't want that. Anna wanted her own spotlight, not one shared by default. She wanted her name to stand on its own, her success to be measured by her own risks, her failures to be hers alone. She didn't want shortcuts built on power. She wanted a path built on purpose. Walking away from Tom Cruise was not an easy choice. It meant stepping away from protection. From influence. From global attention that could open any door. But it also meant stepping into something far more valuable. Independence. It meant waking up knowing that every role she accepts, every boundary she draws, and every future she builds will be shaped by her, not by expectations surrounding someone else's legacy. That decision takes courage most people never understand. Today, Anna continues choosing bold projects. She chooses stories that challenge her emotionally, characters that demand depth, roles that may not always guarantee numbers, but always demand truth. She protects her personal space fiercely now. She speaks softly about her private world. She builds her career slowly, carefully, and on her own terms. Her evolution is no longer loud. It is intentional. As for Tom Cruise, he remains unstoppable. Breaking box office records. Defying age with every daring stunt. Carrying the weight of a cinematic legacy that few will ever touch. His world continues at full speed. The machine never slows. The legend keeps moving forward, exactly as it always has, to stars, to very different timelines, to paths that crossed briefly and then separated. Quietly. One chose peace, the other chose momentum. And neither choice was wrong. Because sometimes the most powerful breakups are not built on anger. They are built on realization, on knowing when love no longer fits the future you see for yourself, on understanding that walking away doesn't always mean loss. Sometimes it means survival. It means growth. It means becoming who you were always meant to be. And maybe that's why this story still lingers in silence, because not every ending needs closure. Some endings exist simply to remind us that choosing yourself can be the most powerful plot twist of all.